we turn our attention to our exclusive conversation with the group CEO of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mr. Mele Kyari. We sat down earlier with him and we started the conversation about what is the real cause of these long few queues that we see across the country. And this is how he started by explaining to us.
Maybe shattered may not be the right word to describe the situation. We have a huge logistic challenge. And this has been persisting in the last 4 to 5 months, as you have rightly pointed out. But how did it start? I think it's important to know what happened. First, there was a glitch in terms of road failure around certain axes because of the flood that we have. Nobody has control over flood. I'm sure you'll agree with that. Once that flood happened, we are unable to evacuate product from one location to the other efficiently. And mind you, that in this country today, our redundancy around 3 days as a result of the huge logistic challenges that we have in the country. Once you have a glitch of 3 days, you will have a challenge of resolving this minimum of 3 weeks. This is very, very understandable. This is the reality that happens. So once you have that situation, a number of things come into play. What comes into play? Number one, arbitrage will come in. Now, people would like to take advantage of that situation. They will move product from where it is sold cheap to where it is sold expensive. While you're having the same volume, because it will make sense for business people, and that's greed also, by the way, let me qualify it properly. Greed will push people to hold the product even in their tanks and in their locations so that they're able to sell it at maximum price. So once we had that glitch last year, it's a very cyclic thing. So that you continue to see interventions that you have to do. But as you're doing this also, there are changes that happen that nobody saw it coming. It wasn't planned. It wasn't anticipated. And what change came? For instance, once product land into this country, you have to take them by small vessels, we call the STS vessels, the ship-to-ship transfer vessels, to the depots. Or some of the vessels are actually able to deliver right straight into some of the depots. Now, the cost of hiring those vessels shift from about $21, early January last year, to close to $80 per day in some locations today in the country. And our compensation template under the pricing regime that we are running today did not anticipate, didn't see that coming. So somebody has to pay for this, and so that adjustment must take place. And of course, you also have a secondary issue, which is the issue of managing the depots themselves and the trucks. For instance, every depot buys equipments and facilities, manages them from materials that they have to buy overseas. And those materials, you must find FX to buy them, foreign exchange to buy them. They also move, prices move without any reference to our local situation. So their costs rise while we are not able to adjust for the benefit that they will require from the pricing template for them to recover their total cost.
The feelers out there is that people are blaming the NNPC. How do you absorb? Can you absorb the NNPC of all of these problems?
Yes, I don't think it's about absorbing any institution. I think it's a systemic issue. It's a major distribution issue, and then also the challenge of a value chain. For instance, when the products come into this country, you have to move them into ship-to-ship vessels, into terminals. A number of partners, institutions are involved in that process. There's no one single point where you say this institution is responsible for this, because you have a chain of issues. You need the Navy, you need the inspectors, you need NNPC, you need the regulators. Everybody has to align until you take this product to its final destination. So when you come to cross-border smuggling of petroleum products, it's very obvious that so much is being done. I've engaged the customs service substantially. They are doing so much work around it to make sure that we contain that situation. But it's not really not about NNPC or any institution. It is an arbitrage environment. Once you create a huge arbitrage environment, you're going to have this challenge. It's not even about the people. It's the incentive that is there. For instance, when you take a truck of fuel in Lagos and you take it to a regular filling station, say in Maiduguri, the furthest part of the location, your net gain is 270. Your margin is 270,000 naira. Just imagine. If you are able to take this same product across the border, you can have margin of up to 40 million naira or 50 million naira. So it's very, very impossible for you to contain a situation where you have an arbitrage environment that is very simple to control. It's not really about...
how do we then contain it? I'm quick to start thinking about the pains of Nigeria and how that will ease. But that arbitrate environment that you talk about, how do we contain it? It can no longer continue, can it?
Yes, arbitrage is, two things are responsible for arbitrage. First of all, as a country, and I really do see why this is coming from. And the reason why government will insist on a subsidy regime. We know the relationship between petroleum prices and commodity prices. Nonetheless, it is the policy of government to sustain a subsidy environment. That means your pricing here are cheaper than what you have across the border. Now, the second part of it is that even where you have an environment where the prices have normalized, coming even to market, assuming the prices in Nigeria is the same thing with Nigeria, Republic of Benin, Cameroon, and so on. Even if you do this, you have a reality around you, which is that these countries are currently fiscally challenged. They are not able to import this petroleum. But we keep data on around who imports what into what country. Now we know that they simply cannot do this. It would have been a market situation. It would have been an advantage to our country delivering product to this location. So the combination of these two will make it practically difficult for you to control cross-border smuggling.
So I'm quick to look at solutions now before I get into the other technical details. Because as far as every Nigerian is concerned, as soon as we said we're going to speak with you, what they are concerned about is when will these problem, these fare queues, because in transport into something else, cost of transportation will jack up, and cost of commodities also will jack up. So when do you think we can finally have a breath of fresh air when it comes to this issue of scarcity of fuel, or the queues that we're seeing across the country?
Yes, I think it's good to also address why do you have the queues to begin with. I think it's very important to answer that question before you jump to when will it end. First of all, once you have a glitch, there's a mindset that will come with it, very, very natural anywhere in the world, that when people see some semblance of scarcity, when they see a queue of 10 cars in a filling station, for instance, the natural thing anyone will do is that if your tank is at half full, you say, let me just peel off. And then when you enter the fuel station, in the past, it is very possible for people to say, let me just buy 10,000 naira worth of oil or 5,000 naira worth of oil. But once you see a situation where you may not have the next time you come back, the chances are that people will fill up their tank. So ultimately, people will stay longer in the fuel station even though you have fuel that is available for dispensing. And this is very, very natural and understandable. What we're doing under this circumstance is to make sure more fuel than normal is available so that everyone that comes in to fill his tanks is able to fill his tank and leave, so that over a period of time, those requirements will ease out, and so that those people will not jump into the fuel. So the real reason really is not about even scarcity. They are fueling, for instance, today, year to date, our average evacuation from the depots is up to 63 million liters a day. So there is no paucity of delivery into the fuel station. There's no way you can actually explain that there's a lack of fuel in the country, but it's in the wrong location in most of the times. And secondly, not just in the wrong location, people have reacted very, very
Which of these locations are the wrong locations you're referring to?
Yes, what I mean by wrong location is that once you have a situation of arbitrage, oil marketing companies and oil traders will naturally find where is the highest price that I can get. So they will move those products to those locations, and those locations can be the fuel station. They can be in trucks. It makes sense now for a businessman to say, okay, let me keep it wherever I can find somebody who is going to buy at 350, I will sell it to him. So cumulatively, you have so much volume in your hands, but it's not getting to the right location. And secondly, because of this situation that has come on the table, when people go into fuel station, they will naturally fill their tanks. And filling that tanks means that you spend more time in the fuel station. Mind you also, there's another secondary issue that you have to deal with. When people come in, today now our country is making progress through the electronic platform for payment. Sometimes these platforms don't work efficiently as you want. So instead of spending 5 minutes making the payment, you probably do 10 minutes. And where there's any glitch on technology, people will insist that, look, I will leave this place until you fill my time. So a combination of issues that actually brought up this situation.
For those who see conspiracy here, are they wrong?
Conspiracy, why would anyone do this? I think this is
It's a widespread feeling across the country that there is a conspiracy against the Nigerian people to make them suffer.
Maybe let me state it differently. First of all, I think there's hardship caused by this situation, no doubt about it. People spending more time in fuel stations than they would have ordinarily done. People paying more for what they could have paid less. And not only that, losing man hours and so many other complications and pains. So we apologize to Nigerians for this. We're sincerely sorry that this happened. But simply, it cannot be a matter of conspiracy. It is impossible. When the floods came, the floods don't respect anyone. They don't respect any situation. Remember that for about 10 days, there's not a single vehicle that crossed Lokoja into Abuja, for instance. By implication, crossing into most part of northern part of this country. And very recently, I'm sure you're very familiar with this, very recently, we have seen a situation where because of an accident of 2 trucks around Agge in Niger State, trucks could not leave that location for 3 to 4 days. You have hundreds of trucks lined up in that location, but they cannot move. So once you have that glitch, it sends a number of other collateral consequences. They come up, natural, it's very natural. So once you're not able to deliver to one city, people will see there's constraint, even though you have the product in the trucks, and then they'll start queuing up. And that queuing up can only be freed when you have excess supply coming into those locations.
So and those who hold the view that are some people who are benefiting from the challenges that the suffering that Nigerians are facing. And it takes me to the question. About 64.4 million is about the average volume that we have. But since I'm speaking with you now, there's this disparity. Customs have said at some point that that Nigeria is not consuming as much as the volume NNPC says we are consuming. And those who will think that if Nigeria has so much of that volume, we shouldn't be experiencing this kind of glitch. Can you give us the figure? What is the consumption per day that Nigerians are consuming on petrol?
I don't know if you have bothered to look at our website. 2 days ago, we published the total volume of petroleum product dispatched from the depots, evacuation from the depots in the last 1 week. And it's very, very clear that what we have done, average from January 1st, from the beginning of the year to today, we have done average of 63 million liters of evacuation from the depot. Evacuation from the depot, let me be very, very precise.
Every day?
Every day, average, since January 1st. Now, the meaning of that is that we know every truck that has left every depot in this country. We have numbers, truck numbers, destination fuel stations, destination states. And we have also published this by list of states where those trucks go, the number of trucks that have left those trucks. Now, when they leave the depot, so where would they end up with? That's the question. And that is what would have translated into national consumption. Today, I've made it very clear that it is practically impossible under an arbitrary environment and also under a situation where your neighbors are helpless for you to say that there will be no cross-border movement of petroleum products. That's why we're making it legitimate in the sense that NNPC is now buying fuel stations across our borders so that we can deliver to them legitimately. Very simply impossible to stop this until you're able to resolve this arbitrary issue. So definitely what you're dealing with is a logistic challenge rather than anything else. So now coming back to your question, when would that ease come? I think it's very, very valid question. For instance, once you're able to put up more product into the market, deliver more than what the country needs, which is essentially what you have to do so that you can achieve that optimum level, so that ultimately people will go to the fuel station, fill their tanks, and they will have no need for coming back until after a week or so, and then that way you can achieve stability. And we have tested this. It works. For instance, in Abuja here, under normal circumstances, what we call dispatches into Abuja is around 120 trucks to 130 trucks maximum. Now, we have done consistently over 150 trucks in the last 1 week. And the end result is that you are seeing the queues have gone. So we know that the solution is excess supply. So once you're able to do excess supply across the country, across location, you are going to resolve this issue.
When are you likely to have that?
Exactly what we are doing now. We are ramping up evacuation today in many depots on daily basis. Today now we are doing more than 70 million liters into the market against the regular evacuation level of up to 63 to 64 million liters. So this will work. And we believe that the ease that we are seeing in many locations today, I don't want to cite specific location, but I know that we are seeing ease across the country. This is easing up. I believe very strongly that within the next 1 week, I'm not saying that you are going to have zero queues in the next 1 week, no. I can't guarantee that because a number of things are out of our control. And of course, the market forces will determine some of these issues. But I believe that we are going to see substantial and relative ease compared to today in the next 1 week.
That sounds like a good news. I mean, for a lot of Nigerians, and that should calm some nerves because people, and what happens is that when there are queues, it causes traffic. People panic and there are a lot of things happen. There are all those, those who also of the opinion that why deliver to tank farms who do not have sufficient filling station? They are not as close to the to those who are buying on the road. Why not dispense straight to those who have filling station? Why are you not considering that?
Yes, you have two categories of marketers in our terrain. You have marketers who are integrated end to end. That means they have their vessels, they have their fuel stations, they have their depots. And then you have marketers who don't have this. Now, when you pull all the marketers that have integrated capability, even if they don't have the vessels to begin with, they cover only 60% or about 50 to 60% of the total national fuel station spread in the country. So when you say you are left with this, you can't do it. But then you have another set of marketers who don't own depots. They are called the independent marketers. They constitute a very, very huge fragment of the marketing framework that we have in this country. So you must have facilities that will deliver product to them. And that's why you cannot avoid having depots that are delivering to those who don't own these depots, but these depot owners don't necessarily need to own a fuel station. And why do we even have these depots to begin with? It's a pipeline problem. Because in our country today, the way we are organized in terms of the pipeline network is in such a way that no city, no location will be further than 400 kilometers from the nearest depot. That means that you do not need this large number of trucks that we are seeing in the country. You're also bringing product close to its users. But our pipelines are not functioning. And why are they not functioning? For instance, they have integrity issues, no doubt about it. But more than this, for instance, let me put it in perspective. You recall what happened in Jesse around 1998, where a number of people died, unfortunately. But the real reason was that they were trying to scoop fuel from our pipeline. And there was so much vandal action on those pipelines that since that day till now, we are not able to pack petroleum product to that line.
The pipeline still looks, to me, like what we see in other climes as a reasonable means of transporting the product. But what is the permanent solution? We must be thinking about that.
It's not just reasonable. Pipeline is the cheapest way of transporting petroleum,
but
any form of liquid.
There are maintenance issues, there are integrity issues on these pipelines. What are you doing to ensure that going forward we have a solution, a permanent fix?
No, maybe
vandalism.
Maybe differently. What are we doing now? I think this is a better way of putting this question. So I'm returning
what is being done now? So what is being done now?
What's being done now is that we have put in place a build, operate, and transfer mechanism. We have selected contractors who will put their money, billions of naira, to make replacement on those pipelines, to put their money so that these depots become functional once again, and not only that, so that they can recover their costs from the tariff that will come from this pipeline. It will make business sense. That's what we're doing now.
You have been also blamed, the NNPC that is, of lack of forecasting, and that if you had forecast properly, maybe we wouldn't have found ourselves. We've given a lot of explanation about how we found ourselves here. We learned some lessons about looking ahead and projecting properly. Should we have any kind of exigency or emergency like we had in the flooding issue, which is one of the situations that you said came up as an emergency?
Yes, let me also still come back to the pipeline. When the pipelines were active, those depots are designed to be holding national strategic reserve. That means that at any one time, the interland depots have capability to hold up to 30 days of national supply. That means that, first of all, you're not going to have problem or long distance travel. So it minimizes the risks of issues around access to road, stability of our roads, and also natural phenomena like flood and other weather issues. Once the pipelines are not available, you are left with nothing other than manage the trucks. And those trucks, reliability or redundancy is just 3 days. That's the point I'm trying to make now. So there's no amount of forecast that you will make that will tell you there will be flood. So that doesn't exist. So once you have a glitch of 3 days, you will have to recover from it. There's no other way of doing it today now, other than restoring the pipeline.
There's another knotty issue, which is the issue of the subsidy. As the only importer of the fuel into the country, how do you calculate, how do you tabulate the issue of subsidy?
It's very simple. First of all, we transfer product to oil marketing companies at 113 naira per liter, so that we can establish a transfer price, that's a market price of 170. That was 1 year ago. So that's the basis of all the estimates. Now, there's some adjustment that has brought us to the reality of the cost of vessel that I've mentioned over and over. And that adjustment took us to a different level in terms of the logistics. But what is firm, what NNPC has kept hold, is the transfer price from our import, we call it the landing location, into the marketing company. So today now, if you just check, this is not rocket science, anyone can find this out. Today, yesterday's data is that this product will land in this country at 295 naira to the liter. That means you have to sell it at 113 to the marketing companies so that they will be able to maintain the current subsidy regime that we are running. It means you have about 185 naira per liter of subsidy on every product that comes into this country. Now, if you look at the average that we have done of 63 million liters January to date, and you convert it to 365 days, that means you need 4.27 trillion naira for you to meet the subsidy requirement for this country. This is really what you are dealing with. That's what subsidy means.
At what point are you paying the subsidy?
Today, we are the only importer of petroleum product. We have nowhere by law, there's a provision for 3.36 trillion naira for January to June ending subsidy regime for the country. That means technically, the Ministry of Finance is supposed to be giving us checks against this subsidy value on monthly basis. But it's not a real situation in the sense that we are a company owned by the state today. We have fiscal obligations because whatever you do, ultimately, whatever money NNPC makes is from the fiscal obligation, taxes, royalties, and margin. All three, as today, because we have not diluted the ownership of this company, all three belong to the state today. So the only way NNPC can do this is to hold back the fiscal obligation so that we can use that to buy the product and come and sell it to the market.
Let's close this conversation and in this manner. The essence or the reason or the purpose of this conversation is about the groaning and the pains of the average Nigerian. Some of those who do not understand the technicalities of what these problems are. And it is unbelievable, and some of them cannot even wrap their heads around how Nigeria, that has huge deposits of this product under the soil, will be suffering for the product just for them to move around. What promise can you make if you tell Nigerians, millions of them who are watching you tonight, that in the foreseeable future, this kind of problem will not be seen? And the fact that what's soothing and what of hope can you tell them this hour that will give them some kind of relief from the pains of the past few months?
First of all, I apologize for this situation. On behalf of all of us in the stakeholders in the oil and gas industry, definitely not surely exclusive. But having said this, and it's unfortunate, it's a glitch. We are responding to this glitch. We'll resolve this. Will bring succor and relief to Nigerian people. No doubt about it. No one orchestrated this. We have no benefit in doing this. We have families. We are members of part of this community. We are very, very proud of this country. We would like this country to prosper. We don't want Nigerians to suffer. And of course, as a matter of conviction, that we don't think that anyone should go through this. Now, having said this, you must have energy security in your country. That's what every country does. You know, in many countries, you find out that it's the armed forces who actually keep the strategic stock for their countries, because that's very critical, so that you don't run into the kind of situation that we are seeing today, even when it happens, so that you're able to come out of it very, very quickly. By the way, having fuel queues is really not something that is local to any one country. It happens everywhere whenever you have other glitches of price, pipeline issues, and so on and so on. But we don't hope that this happens to our country. But you must have guarantee of supply in your country, which is why we're focused on delivering our refineries rehabilitation projects, so that ultimately this product becomes close to us. The Dangote refineries come by. The combination of this is that you will have product close to you. Now, this hasn't happened. The refineries rehabilitation is not completed. the Dangote refinery hasn't taken up. They will happen. Both of them will happen. Once that happens, you have the safety and security of supply near you. But in the absence of this, what do you do? Just like any other country, if we may not have those resources, is to import. And the guarantee I have now is that NNPC has locked supply into this country, irrespective of the financial situation the challenges that we are facing. So we do not have delivery problem, we do not have supply problem, that we are sure that the requirement of 63 to 66, whatever volume, up to 66 million, the NNPC has made plans, the vessels are arriving, they are in line of sight, and people can check this. They are not hidden. In fact, we're actually considering publishing the name of the vessel that people can see, except for some security consideration. Otherwise, we have firm supply arrangement in the country. Now, the next thing you have to do is to deliver this product from this mother vessel into fuel station. To that, you need marine vessels, you need depots, you need trucks, you need to engage stakeholders, you need to have support of government security agencies, you need to have support of state governments.
Are you getting that?
Yes, I think I can.
Are the independent marketers on board?
Would all, and I'd like just to thank them for they have given us all the cooperation that we require in the last 2 weeks. We have reached agreement and understanding with them. We are managing the prices jointly with them. They're making sure that trucks will be available. We're able to meet the requirements for this truck to move around, and we're also able to provide every other support that is required, including by government security agencies, to make sure they deliver to this. I think we have a start of relief.
So 1 week, Nigerians will see a dramatic difference.
There will be a difference, absolutely.